The WNBA has just crossed a line that permanently changes the balance of power in women's basketball, and the shockwaves are still rippling through the league. What unfolded behind the scenes of Team USA's 2025 roster decisions was not just another selection debate or a routine changing of the guard. It was a defining moment that exposed how quickly the league is moving forward, and how unforgiving that movement can be for anyone who fails to evolve with it. For A'ja Wilson, a player who built her identity on dominance, status, and veteran authority, this moment landed like a thunderclap. The system she trusted, the hierarchy she believed protected her, simply moved on without her. For months, tension between Wilson and Caitlin Clark had been simmering just below the surface. While Clark's arrival triggered record-breaking attendance, unprecedented television ratings, and a level of mainstream attention the league had never seen before, Wilson's public posture grew increasingly strained. Subtle comments, social media interactions, and thinly veiled critiques began to stack up. To some fans, it felt like competitive fire. To others, it looked like insecurity surfacing in real time. What Wilson did not realize was that Team USA was watching everything closely, not as gossip but as data. Every interaction, every interview, every moment of friction mattered, but the national team quietly adjusted its evaluation process. The message was unmistakable. Past trophies and established reputations were no longer enough. Adaptability, chemistry, and professionalism were elevated to the same level as on-court production. This shift came at the worst possible moment for Wilson. Despite Clark being sidelined with an ankle injury since early January 2025, her name remained firmly inside the national team pool. Wilson's did not. That contrast alone stunned the basketball world and immediately reframed the narrative around both players. From a purely basketball perspective, the reasoning ran deeper than many expected. International play exposes weaknesses that domestic leagues can sometimes mask, and Wilson's style has always thrived in an environment where whistles come frequently and physicality is tightly regulated. Under FIBA rules, that safety net disappears. Physical play is encouraged, contact is absorbed, and free throws are earned far less generously. Scouting reports from recent international exhibitions showed a clear pattern. When the game became more physical and less referee-dependent, Wilson's efficiency dipped sharply, her rhythm suffered, and her impact waned. Clark's game, by contrast, looked almost custom-built for that environment. Deep shooting range does not depend on officiating. Footwork does not require permission. Shot creation from 30 feet forces defenses to stretch in ways they are not comfortable doing, regardless of rulebook or referee tendencies. Whether the game slowed down or turned chaotic, Clark's influence remained steady. That consistency mattered to Team USA, especially with global tournaments looming where margins for error are razor-thin. The emotional fallout from Wilson's exclusion only intensified the situation. Instead of framing the decision as motivation or a challenge to refine her international game, frustration spilled into the public sphere. Vague messages about disrespect and being overlooked circulated quickly. Reactions that might have been brushed off in isolation began to confirm the very concerns the selection committee had reportedly been debating. Meanwhile, Clark's response could not have been more different. Even while injured, she kept her focus narrow and her tone measured, acknowledging the opportunity without centering herself above the team or the moment. Inside the league, conversations grew more uncomfortable. Coaches and executives understand that international tournaments are pressure cookers. One fractured locker room can derail an entire campaign. Team USA has been burned before by internal tension, and this time they were determined not to repeat the mistake. Chemistry was not optional. Representation mattered. The players chosen would be ambassadors, not just for American basketball, but for the future of the women's game on a global stage. The financial implications followed quickly. Endorsement partners pay attention to tone, optics, and long-term appeal. Clark's marketability barely flinched despite her injury, buoyed by her composure and broad fan connection. Wilson's brand, however, entered uncertain territory. Sponsors do not invest in resentment or division. They invest in momentum and inspiration. As public perception shifted, the contrast between the two players widened beyond basketball. Even within Wilson's own team environment, cracks reportedly began to show. Teammates grew weary of the constant comparisons, the lingering fixation on media narratives, and the distraction it created during moments that required collective focus. Younger players, watching closely, absorbed a lesson they will carry for years. Success in this new era is not just about production. It is about how you respond when the spotlight moves elsewhere. Team USA's decision ultimately reflected something larger than a single roster spot. It signaled a philosophical shift. The league is entering a phase where growth, global reach, and adaptability outweigh entitlement. Players who elevate the sport, who expand its audience, and who handle both praise and pressure with balance will shape what comes next. Clark represents that future, not because she is perfect, but because she understands that the game is bigger than any one individual. Timing makes this all the more unforgiving. At 31, Wilson is staring at the closing of an international window she once assumed would stay open indefinitely. Clark, just 23, stands at the beginning of a decade-long runway with Team USA. Her influence likely expanding with every healthy season. The contrast is stark, and it is no longer hypothetical. This moment will be studied for years. Not as a takedown of a great player, but as a case study in how quickly professional sports can evolve. Talent alone is no longer a guarantee. Leadership, adaptability, and humility now sit at the center of opportunity. Wilson had a chance to align herself with the league's most transformative figure and help guide women's basketball into a new era. Instead, the gap between them widened until the system made its choice. As the countdown to the 2026 World Cup and 2028 Olympics continues, one path is opening while another narrows. The league has made it clear where it is headed and what it values. Women's basketball is growing faster than ever, and it is choosing those who can grow with it. Now it's your turn. Do you think Team USA made the right call by prioritizing adaptability and chemistry over legacy? Is this the beginning of a new standard for leadership in the WNBA, or did they move on from a star too quickly?